Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for for joining this session. So, Azwani, can we start now? Wani, where is Wani? Wani?
Kita boleh proceed.
Okay. So, can I share the content? Okay. Let me share the content. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Before we start, let's recite Al-Fatihah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, so welcome to this session. Thank you so much, everyone. And perhaps, hopefully, we can get two-way communication between you and me. So basically, I'm sharing whatever I have with everyone today. And the topics was given to me about essential supervisory skills. So let's see how it goes. There are two things that I'm going to cover today. Okay. Basically reflect and discuss. So reflect means that try as much as possible to reflect on your individual supervisory skills. So afterward, maybe I'm going to share you a few things that might help you to reflect on your own supervisory skill, and perhaps based on that we can discuss, as well as we can have a two-way sharing rather than I'm alone sharing, but you are most welcome to share as well your own experience in terms of supervision. And maybe later on, I'm going to share you 10 essential supervisory skills that basically I think it works so far, but perhaps that is depending on how I'm going to use that 10 essential supervisory skills in our own context, and perhaps we can further discuss on the 10 points that I'm going to share maybe toward the end of this session. Now, before we start, can I have kind of um, survey, just a very brief one using Mentimeter, your experience as main SV. You can go to www.mentimeter.com as stated on the top of the slide, and then put the code 2015-286, and then maybe you can respond on how far that you have so far in terms of your supervision. Let me change to the active one. Yes. Okay, please keep your voting coming. Okay, menteam.com. The code 2015-286. That's a brief indication to me how far. Okay, so far we have 6. All I have supervised a few students. Okay, I have supervised many students. Okay, keep coming. Your sharing through this menti.com. Okay, how many of you basically participants? Yes, anyone else? I have 13, 14. Okay, I give you another 1 minute to respond. My experience as main SV, you have another 30 seconds. Okay, great. So at least we have 70% of you basically at least supervise few students, and then 15% of you are yet to supervise any students. Okay, that's good. At least you can get some idea from those already have experience supervising students, particularly in main supervisor role. And then 50% of you, yeah, many students. So basically, I believe you are very senior one. So please share your thoughts as well as your experience with us um, throughout this session, because everyone have your own unique experience dealing with various students with various characteristics and styles. Okay, thank you so much. Let's go to the second one. It's linked with your experience, but I would like you to share something more. Where is the oh, sorry. Yeah, in terms of you can write maybe maximum 150 characters, just like Twitter. So perhaps based on your own experience, so because I think 85% of you have some experience at least. So what stories or rumors have you heard about being supervisors, or maybe your own stories? You can put in, and then let's see how can we tap your stories as rumors and how it will link with our discussion further on. So yeah, you can start. I give you 5 minutes to think and to write like a Twitter. You know, don't worry, it will be anonymous. Nobody know you basically. Okay. So yeah, you are free to share any stories or rumors that you have heard about being supervisor. 5 minutes. We are still on the same code, the Mentimeter code 2015 286. Okay, get a good student and you will encounter less stress. But unfortunately, not all students are naturally independent. Demanding tasks that require passion and skills, the student will get whacked out by the top management if student fails to GOT. Hmm. Supervisors too busy to take care of the student. They always reply late. Okay, sounds very familiar. Responsible and good communication skills. Okay, you have 5 so far. Yes, keep coming. You have another 4 minutes. Supervisor does not guide student properly. Okay. SV is king. Can ask student to do anything. Wow. Okay. Interesting. Students' English was so bad, sometimes did not write the proper meaning of the sentence. Discussion chapter needs a lot of guidance. They could not come up with a good discussion. Okay. Say the stories, I believe, not rumors. When I did my PhD, my SV is a new lecturer in the department. She has been helpful, but I needed more from her. But I think I did well in the end. So now I have not so much clues on how to be a good SV myself. SV treats students like their own personal assistant. The supervisor need to spend more time with students like doctor, dot. The funds should be available throughout the study. Other supervisors tend to be more relaxed and not too pushy. Oh, okay. Oh, before that, can everyone read all these, stories from your own, from your laptop? Any problem to see all this? No. Yes, you can. Okay, good, good. Okay, no problem. Okay, good, good. Thanks for the feedback. Okay, we have another 2 minutes, remaining 2 minutes for you to share anything that you like in terms of your stories, rumors that you have heard about being supervisor. Those who are just come in, you can share your thought as well. No problem. It's completely anonymous. Supervisor does not give proper answer, possible solution for any question asked. Almost all always give jawapan selamat. Okay, quite interesting. Yeah, you have less than 1.5 minute. Yeah, almost. Yeah, 1 minute, another 1 minute. Oh, remote. Okay, better to get international student rather than Malaysian. Okay, we have another 30 seconds. So those who are interested to share your stories or rumors, please um, type now. Otherwise, we are going to the next, to the next session. Okay, 10 seconds. So I believe that's all our stories and rumors. Okay, thank you so much for sharing. Perhaps everybody have read the stories as well rumors about supervisors. And based on this, inshallah, we'll try to discuss further and how it will relate with the 10 essential supervisory skills that later on I will share with everyone and perhaps discuss in a two-way communications and not only from you, but perhaps you can always unmute your mic and then share your thoughts. And you can always, stop me if I'm too fast. And you can always tell me that, doctor, you are too slow. Also can, no problem. Both sides, okay. So that it will give me feedback on how to pace the session because I'm not seeing you. I'm only seeing the screen, unfortunately. So I prefer to see you, but never mind. There's a new norms. We have to adapt. Okay, now let's go to the main but okay, sorry. Where is my slide? This one. Okay. So there's your stories now. I would like you to reflect. Okay, I would like to reflect. There are 10 items. They call it supervisory index. You just need to read the item and then just answer yes or no. That's all. You know, you have 10 items, and then just yes or no. And then after that, you calculate how many yes that you gather, that you collect from out of this 10. So maybe I give you another 5 minutes to read through the statement and then to respond honestly, to reflect on your own. If yes, you say yes. If no, then say no. But at the end of the day, just sum all the yes, the frequency of yes. So how many of yes at the end of the day. So 5 minutes start from now. So I give you 5 minutes. Answer honestly. How to put the clock? So you have another 3 minutes. So you have another 2 minutes. Everyone done? Let me see on the chat what happened. Your Mentimeter tak keluar. This not yet Mentimeter. After this. Oh, that's just now. Okay. Okay, you have less than 1.5 minutes. So another minute to go. Oh, There are so many. Okay, we are not on Mentimeter right now. It's basically on my PowerPoint. Okay, so everyone done? Okay, if done, let's go back to this Mentimeter. Okay, so so far I think looking at your feedback, a few of you can really see the Mentimeter. Okay, so but that's okay. Now let's go to supervisory index. Okay, now as I told you just now, so you need to sum all the yes. Yes mean that, oh, 8 to 10. Okay, you know already how it works. So just sum all those 10 points. If let's say you have uh, accordingly, you can vote accordingly, 5 to 7, 8 to 10, or less than 5. So that's yours now. Let's see. Is there anyone still can see the Mentimeter? Let me check the chat. I hope everyone can see Mentimeter right now. Okay, we'll open this voting up to 2 minutes. You can just select less than 5, 5 to 7, 8 to 10. Okay. So I will tell you what the index mean after this. Okay, please keep coming. Your vote, or maybe your feedback, basically not vote. Your feedback on your supervisory index just now. For any more, we have another 1 minute. Then we can discuss a little bit about what does supervisory index mean. Okay, so 55% of you are within 8 to 10, 5 to 7 about 27, less than 5 is about 18%. Okay, so what these numbers mean basically? So basically, these are the expected supervisory skills that we need to do. However, what we have done just now is about the self-perception. Basically self-perception. You can give the similar question, the index, the statement to your students and let them give their rating on us. So let's see whether, for example, just now 8 to 10. 8 to 10 is very high. It means that you have very high level of supervisory skills based on your perceived rating just now, based on your own rating, self-rating. But it's always good to to get your students to rate on you as well, so that you can see is there any gaps between what you perceive and what the students perceive from the other hand. So perhaps this supervisory index just a guide for us to see what's the level of our supervisory skill at this moment, either from the self-perception or maybe you can use it the same instrument and then give to your candidates as um, uh, as a one way of you want to check our own performance against the similar standard. So basically, this those, and those who are less than 5, and maybe that's you are developing the supervisory skill. So maybe you are new and not yet, not yet supervise any student. Perhaps this is something that you want to consider when you are start to supervise your own student as a main SV. And 5 to 7 is basically you are in progress. You're in progress on developing your supervisory skill. So, but more or less, so far so good. So we have a broad range of your own, no, your own level of supervisory skill at this moment. So let's go through one by one, and let's see how well we are going to do it. Okay, now this is your supervisory skill index just now. Now the 10 essential supervisory skills. Now I'm going to give you what are those 10 essential supervisory skills, and in any of those skills. So I'm going to maybe a bit more discussion with everyone on that one by one skill, so that we can have more interaction, and perhaps you can share your own as well, based on whatever experience that you have so far. Okay, there's a two-way, definitely. First, okay, the first supervisory skill that we need to have as a supervisor is to support growth and well-being. This is something that we need to consider, because providing support for supervisees, professional development through many ways. There are so many ways, and one of the ways is basically when we come to us, then when the students come to us, let's have a plan on their professional development plan throughout the journey. And I always did with my candidates. Basically, on the first side, we will discuss about what is your plan. What is going to happen in maybe within the time frame. For example, let's discuss about your personal professional plan. I mean that how many years that you want to complete your master or maybe your PhD, and what will be the timeline. So you're working within what time frame. For example, let's say a few students who are very enthusiastic, they want to complete within 2 to 3 years of PhD. But there are more on pragmatic students. They are say that, okay, never mind, 3 to 5 years is good, to me. So I'm not going to rush. I'm not going to, push everything, because I'm working. I have something else, and there's so many commitment that I have when I go back. And furthermore, I'm a part-time student. So basically, this is something that we need to negotiate, as well as to plan with our students, because they have their own plan. We, as a main supervisor, we have our own plan as well. So we need to mix supervisor plan as well as candidate plan, so that we can strike balance between what we expect from the students and what students expect from the supervisor from the day one. So it is something that professional development plans I mean here. And the second part is when we appraise student performance, we need to praise again the standards that we already agreed from the beginning. For example, let's say these are the milestones that the students already agreed with us, and we also agreed with them. So based on that, what would be the strength of the candidates at that particular point, and then what would be something that they need to do in order for them to strengthen whatever they have weaknesses within that particular plan. So basically, this is something that I always trying to my best to negotiate with the student from the day one. And believe me, that is something that I always start with all this to the student. It doesn't matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop. Everything need time. So this is something that I always keep remind myself, as well as remind to my candidate. For example, let's say the candidate, from the initial plan, he or she wants to graduate within 3 years, but something happened. The something happened that really matters, that really impact on the studies, and then it get delayed. It get delayed. And if a supervisor do not support the growth of the supervisor at this moment, because didn't meet the the plan, delayed, and everything upside down, and many more. But if we keep remind ourselves as a supervisor, everything need time. As long as the candidate do not stop, we should keep moving. So this is something that I always remind myself, as well as remind my candidates. Uh, don't worry, don't worry. Yes, you aim to complete within 2 years, because one of my candidates, PhD candidates, is very enthusiastic, very confident. He said that, yeah, I'm going to complete 2 years, because I know that my momentum is, I'm very fast, I'm everything, because definitely the candidate is a good and excellent candidate, but somehow, because of something happened, that's really, hamper the motivation of the candidates, because he or she cannot complete within the time frame that he or she already agreed with us. So as a supervisor, we need to support growth and well-being of our candidates. Remember, keep reminding ourselves, give them time if, let's say, the initial plans is not working as it was planned. Okay, so this is the first thing that I always keep myself reminded, so that I'm not going to be distressed, or maybe the candidate also not distressed, and then both sides are happy. And usually, not usually, when we keep reminding them that time is the most important factor, as long as you keep your journey moving, even 1 inch, you will never fail. Just a matter of time when you want to success. Okay, I still remember, this is my own experience. I still remember one of my candidates come to me, and then shared their emotions, feeling being demotivated, very frustrated, depressed, and so on and so forth. There are so many negative feelings about, because why? Because for the past 2 semesters, he or she, the candidates didn't do anything, just thinking, but don't do anything concrete to move, according to the plan. And the candidate come to me, explain everything from A to Z, and what I advise in terms of supporting the growth is basically, because first, what I told to the candidate is, that's okay, no problem. Never mind. I said, never mind, that's okay. Whatever has been in the past, let it in the past. So what is your future plan? What is your future plan? So what is the main, the factors that really make you at this particular point, which is you do nothing, just thinking. The candidate said, doctor, you know what? Because he's an international student. Do you know what, doctor? When I go back to my institution, because I'm not a full-time, I have so many commitments there, I do not have time to do my PhD, to do PhD work. I do not have time, simply do not have time. Okay, so what's your plan? Then the candidate said, okay, I will find time. Okay, that is very good. But how to find time? How to find time? Sometimes, candidate ask us about how to find time, doctor, because time is really, really, serious matter to me. Okay. Now, what I advise him is, okay, that's okay. That's okay. At least your problem is not big enough. Just a matter of time. Now, let me put in a different perspective. You are not the driver of a car, okay, and then the car is, you are the one who are drive, and then I just a co-driver, or maybe I don't even have to be there. But the fuel to move the car is your time. I said to that particular candidate, the fuel to move the car, to burn the engine, to get it moved is your time. So I think by whatever mean, you need to find at least even 10 minutes of your time. Please do something with your PhD. Please do something with your PhD. Even 10 minutes. Please find something, because if you put the fuel into your car, which means the time, the car will never move. The car will never move. That is my own experience how we support the growth and well-being of the candidates. Do not blame them, trying to understand them. Because when we understand them, a lot of things happen. And after that moment, now that particular candidate is already moved and even almost finishing the phase 1 of PhD. Just because of we give support for them to grow. Not to inhibit their growth, but support their growth as a supervisor. So I think this is something that maybe something a bit critical that moment. Almost, the candidate want to drop from the PhD. They said no, I'm not going to commit whatsoever. But luckily now, the candidate is growing and then moving to the next phase, and then producing quite, a few papers and under review right now, and writing papers and many more. So I think this is something that the first role of supervisor is to support our candidate growth and well-being by putting some effort and keep reminding ourselves that as long as they do not stop, we need to keep them moving. Just need some time. Time to tell us that the candidate will be better in the future. So that is one of things that I could share in the support growth and well-being at this moment. So basically, why we need time? Because everyone required time. Definitely for the life balance. For example, that candidate, they need to have a life balance because of work and the interest, the family, and so many others. So balance of time. If we put in ourselves that we appreciate that our candidate is human, time is similar with us, 24 hours. And if you know that life balance is far more important than jeopardizing the life balance due to the PhD, so perhaps this particular reminder to ourselves keep us as a good supervisor, by trying to being supportive and supporting their growth and well-being. And personal professional development, as I mentioned just now, why time is matter, because everybody will come to us when they choose us as a supervisor. And when we agreed to be the supervisor, we need to remember we have a commitment. We have personal and professional development commitment that we need to work together as a team. And definitely responsibilities. We have so many responsibilities. If we are having responsibilities, our candidate also have responsibilities. And responsibilities need time, because without time, how can we carry out responsibility properly in our own way? So I think it's something, keep reminding me as a supervisor. Perhaps later on you can share your thought as well if you have anything else. But this is the message that I would like to share in the first point in relation to support growth and well-being of our candidates as a supervisor. And definitely, as supervisor, you need to take our own well-being as well. That's why it's good to have two-way communication with our candidates, have clear expectation from the beginning, and put the thing in order. But even though if anything happened that changed the plan, so always remind ourselves everything needs time to work. Okay. If you have anything, you can interrupt me. Do you have anything to share on this matter, support growth and well-being, on the first point? Yes, any one of you like to share yours? Or maybe you did something on the chat. Everyone there? Because I didn't see you. Can you see me? Am I talking alone now? Okay, never mind. I hope you can still listen to me. Oh, can. Okay, so good. Yes, can. Okay. I just want to, to get, I'm not talking alone, basically. Okay, so thank you so much for the feedback, everyone. Okay, now let's move on to second point. Do you have anything to add on the first point, support growth and well-being of our candidates, as well as ourselves, not only candidate? Just anyone, you like to share yours? Maybe a more interesting story than mine? Okay. Okay. So like silent mean that continue. Okay. Now the second point. Oh, okay. So the second point is the first point is about supporting growth and well-being of our candidates and as well as ourselves. The second point is unite with your team, because remember when we become main supervisor, we have one or two co-supervisors, as well as sometimes you have field supervisors. If let's say your candidate is from far, particularly in the context of international students who are developing as well as collecting data in their own institution in Medan outside Malaysia. So you need a field supervisor as well. So there is another team that you have. And then sometimes you have external co-supervisor, sometimes field supervisor, but you have appointed as external co-supervisor. So this is another your team. And then don't forget, your team is the candidate as well. Okay, the candidate as well. So how are we going to unite with our team? So perhaps looking at supervisees, we need to be approachable, available, and accessible. I think nowadays, because we have WhatsApp, we have so many others communication medium, perhaps those can be leveraged and taken advantage to be more approachable, available, and accessible. However, it's always good to have kind of limitation. For example, let's say um, you will be available only office hours. So you need to um, make them aware, particularly the candidate, the supervisors. Make them aware that I'm only available in office hour, but when I go home, I have so many kids, I have so many commitment, particularly if supervisor is a wife. If a husband, maybe depend. But a wife is always when she goes home, then that's it. No, there are a lot of things will be disconnected because of arranging family matters. So perhaps this is something that you need to clarify with your candidates, particularly if the candidates are demanding. There are certain candidates are very demanding. You give now, for example, let's say you give the candidates will give us timeline. Not supervisor give candidate timeline, but sometimes the candidates give timeline to the supervisors. So the other way around. And then, in fact, they're very, instant reply, instant reply. If let's say it's a blue tick already, no, if let's say we didn't reply after the blue tick, they will keep keep messaging until we reply. So sometimes it's always good that we are available later. Okay, noted, but can I respond to you next week? So perhaps if this kind of candidate, because we want to ensure the unity within the team, so just reply. I will reply next week because I need to do something else. Okay, because at least when we give next week, so he or she already got the message, or you are not available right now, but but going to reply on you soon. Sometimes there's quite a lot of work for lecturer, particularly those who lecturer who have very busy schedule. So the first thing that I'm trying to be in the first place, open door policy. Mean that you can WhatsApp me whatsoever. It doesn't matter, but I will reply whatever time that I'm available. At least say okay. I will see you. Okay, thank you. Noted, and so on and so forth. So at least put something, But if you choose um, not to have open door policy, and definitely you have to tell them when or what whatsoever. For example, particularly your family time. For example, weekend, holiday, or maybe after office hour. If you are not ready, or you are not available after office hour, let them know immediately, because sometimes they do not understand that. Our candidates keep keep messaging us even after office hour. If you are not very comfortable with that, I think it's always to have um, communication with them. I'm sorry because after office hour I'm a bit busy with family matter. So if I do not reply to you, okay, it doesn't mean that I'm not happy with you. It's just a matter of I'm a bit busy. I will reply whenever I have time. Maybe before sleep or maybe tomorrow morning and so on and so forth. I think this is something that I would call as open door policy, so that the things is communicated very well with our candidate. Otherwise, a lot of miscommunication. I had experience as well with students because I was so busy traveling here and there. Then I read the candidate's message. However, I forgot. I forgot to reply, and I overlooked the message for a few weeks. That's a terrible experience. For a few weeks, and particularly the candidate were asking about very important things related to ethical approval, something like that. But she or he needs immediate response. But somehow I read, I forgot, and I overlooked the message. So what I have to do is I go back to that candidate. I say sorry. I'm really sorry because one is I was so busy. I read your I read your message, but definitely I understand your situation. But because I was about to boarding, so I could not reply. But once I landed, I forgot, and because of that, after a few weeks, I just realized that I didn't reply to you and I didn't do anything with your request. So I think be transparent. Say sorry. What else? And luckily the candidate said, okay, never mind, doctor. I will remind you again. So basically, the moral of story is always ask the candidate if, let's say, I didn't reply to you within 1 week. Please remind me again. Particularly, if very important, please remind me immediately day after or maybe 2 days after, because sometimes when we get too compact with so many things, that can happen, which is you read, you forgot, and you overlook, and then the candidate did not remind us. That's happened. I think from the day one, based on that experience, I'll always remind my candidate. Okay, if let's see that I read your message, the blue tick, and then I didn't respond, and then maybe I forgot, and then please remind me. Maybe 1 or 2 days if very urgent. If not urgent, maybe 1 week later or maybe 2 weeks later. So it's always to keep that transparent as possible, because we want to make we want to be a team in our in their journey lah, basically either PhD or master. So that's, and then after that, so far I haven't yet forgotten anything because the candidate always remind me. They already understood their supervisor, because supervisor always forgot what to do. So that is something that open door policy, be transparent, say sorry, and then learn from whatever happened, and then keep reminding ourselves to keep remind our next candidate. Candidate, please remind me if you didn't receive any response from me, for example, 1 week or maybe urgent 2 or 3 days. Please remind me again, because sometimes I overlook, I miss your message. So that is open door policy. And then the second part is a regular one-on-one supervisory meeting. This is something that you can do it either formal or informal. Formal mean that you go appropriately in office hour. You have a session, the book, appointment, and so on and so forth, and you go communication. But I always did is something informal one-on-one supervisory meeting. Examples of informal is basically I ask them for dinner, I go out with them with one-to-one, and then I always, but this one is only same gender lah, basically, same gender, not female or male lah. Basically, if male. So go outing. If let's say if you want to take a female candidate, ask the husband to come, husband to come as well, and your spouse also come and meet you as well. And it works. The informal, okay, in terms of functions, the informal session is more productive as compared to the formal one, as far as my own experience, because they tell us something beyond than the formal thing. Ah. So this is something that I learned throughout my through my journey as supervisor until now, and I still keep learning. It's always good to have one-on-one informal, particularly having lunch together, having dinner. So sometimes they told you something is important, but that won't happen in very formal session. So I know there is something that, and I always pick up problems if the candidate have problem during the informal one-on-one supervisory meeting. That's worked very well, and believe me, they're really happy with that. The informal, they're really being appreciated, and then after that they'll be more motivated, and then they really appreciate our times because they know that at times after office hour is not so easy to get supervisor, and then they really feel that they are being so taken care of by the supervisor, but just having 1 hour or 1.5 hour supervisor meeting informal. So that is my own experience. Perhaps if you have your own experience, later on, please share, because it is something that we can learn from each other. So, and not only one-to-one, one-on-one supervisory. Sometimes, if appropriate, I also go to a group supervisory meeting. I did quite regular as well. Group, for example, let's say, but now due to COVID, they are not around. But if let's say the normal situation, I always ask them, for example, if you come, we go to dinner together as a team. As a team. For example, I got and then a few others, and international or non-international local students. And not only we get benefit as we know their progress as a team, but the students, the candidates learn from other candidates as well. And sometimes what I realize, the other candidates have gone through that situation, and the candidates help the candidates without us, supervisor, need to do anything. Just a matter of facilitate the session, facilitate the process. That's all. So they learn from each other. And then the supervision now is not only focused on the supervisor, but the supervisory roles has been taken care of by our students to take care of their friends. So basically, it is a shared supervisory responsibility among the teams. So this is something I really appreciate when I go for a group supervisor meeting. And sometimes we go kopi o, kita pergi apa tu dekat yang Al-Katiri, together with them, and no Sate Malaysia, whatsoever lah, everywhere. We go as a group, and then I will fetch them. The supervisor will fetch them because they do not have, a transport. So we go there and meet somewhere, and then fetch everyone. And the most important thing why I fetch them, because during the journey, during the driving, we can already discuss about important matters in the car. They have 4 or 5 of them. No, sorry, 3 to 4 of them. And they immediately, okay, doctor, you know what? Our problem is blah, 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 blah. And then I can, yeah, we also have that problem, but it's very difficult to handle because blah, blah, blah. Basically, the bureaucratic, basically, with IPS, with the ethic, and so many other things. So even though it's very informal discussion, as the supervisor, we got already, okay, they're having trouble of this. So what we need to do is take note on that, and perhaps during during the dinner or maybe the lunch whatsoever, we clarify with them. So what do you mean by the ethic? What problem basically? Is it because of form? Is it because of major issues related to your proposal or what? Then they start. Then a lot of things, we can get. And the bonding between, supervisor and the candidates, not only that particular candidate, the whole candidates getting stronger. Getting stronger. Sometimes as supervisor, sometimes we do not know what to do, but because of that bonding, the other colleague know what to do, because sometimes candidate know better than us as supervisor. That's why keep that in our mind. We do not know everything, but we know something that within our territory, within our expertise. But sometimes the non-academic or maybe the social part, the community part, the personal experience part, perhaps the candidate will have more experience than us, as supervisor. So take that as we call it as added value to our supervisory, our supervisions on other candidates as well. So this is, we call it the shared, we call it the shared responsibility among the teams, not only between supervisors, but the supervisor and the supervisor themselves. So keep that and leverage on that as well as much as you can, and then you can become a happy supervisor even though you have so many PhD candidates. So this is my from home experience on regular one-on-one, not only one-on-one, but a group supervisor meeting as well. And then the last but not least, I think the regular feedback to supervisor. So usually when we talk about feedback, we always think that feedback is only to the students. But as a supervisor, we learn a lot when we get feedback from the students. And usually, previously, I sought feedback from the students verbally. But due to the technology now, okay. Due to the technology, so I converted all the verbal feedback into the e-form. So I started this e-form this year. This is feedback to supervisor. I just started because previously I asked them to note down on the piece of paper and they give it to me, or maybe they can text me and so on so on. But usually because due to non-anonymous, so problem is maybe we don't get a lot of honest and open feedback from them. So what I did this year, I just converted whatever I have done with previous candidate, just a matter of in e-form. So what I did, feedback to supervisor, this common form, and then I clearly mentioned to them, dear supervisor, thank you so much for taking your precious time to provide feedback to me as a supervisor in your postgraduate study journey. I'm grateful if you provide honest, sincere, constructive feedback. I can have insight into my supervision, guidance, support, and accessibility for my future improvement as supervisor. Clearly it is anonymous. So it is anonymous. They can write anything, And then at the end, those who are submitting, thank you so much for your feedback. I will read all your feedback for my future improvement. This is something that I feel that really empower me as a supervisor. Then maybe afterward I will share with you because now when everything go on the electronic, it's easier for us to see how many students already give, pasti postgraduate student, and we can trace over time the feedback and how far we can improve. Perhaps let me share. Where is this one? This one. This is just sharing. Maybe you can do better than me. Definitely, this is a very simple one. So this, completely anonymous. Completely anonymous. I cannot trust anyone. So this is something that I asked them. For example, can you share your best experience as a supervisor under my supervision? So that's best experience. This the most interesting part is I would like to see this one. Can you share your worst experience as a supervisor under my supervision? There are some feedback on this. I will share with you because kind of learning process as well to me. And then fifth, can you share your personal advice? Usually as a supervisor, it's always good to respect our candidates to give advice to us. This is one of example that we can give. Can you share your personal advice to me so that I can be a better supervisor? See, so this is something really, give a positive image to you as a supervisor when you ask personal advice from your candidate in anonymous way. Okay. Then there is another important thing. based on your experience, what is or are the best quality, attribute, characteristics, or value that I should maintain as supervisor? So this is something. Let me share the result because I just started this year. Usually I give either I don't give a piece of paper and then I can write, or maybe um, uh, previously verbal. But that one I find it not so good lah because not completely anonymous. So this is a feedback, this is a form. So I got a 13 response because I just had 16 PhD students, 16 to 13, maybe the other three, maybe the other student not checked. So, but never mind. So main supervisor and co-supervisor level, so 12 PhD because I have 16 for maybe did, no time to respond, and one master. And then see, let me share you the response. I think it's quite interesting how to put this one more detail. Can you share your best experience? Never mind, but okay lah, never mind. I just share. So anonymous, completely anonymous. So I did not know who is talking, who was talking basically. So anonymous. You can see that doctors know his subject very well. Blah 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 blah. So this why I do not want to share because good thing. Let's share the bad thing. Okay, this one worst experience. So this is quite interesting. I think the fact that people keep saying he is busy, he mean that the supervisor is busy and won't have time to supervise. Keep me down. Otherwise, I think everything will be just fine as long as we put trust on each other. So it is difficult doing meeting online always. So this candidate do not like online. They come across slightly rude. This one receive minimum response. This is the worst experience. Yeah, I when I received this feedback, I said okay. Yeah, sometimes because it's too busy, I said okay, noted. Good, very good. But basically, those kind of response is not helpful. Not very helpful. So after getting this feedback, I said to myself, okay, never mind. At least I will write one paragraph to them to show that it's not minimal response. So otherwise, so far, none, because I think most of the feedback previously, the previous candidate already shared with me. So maybe I have taken note and then improved myself. That's why now less worse experience that I got from the feedback. And then your personal advice. Okay, your personal advice. Okay. So I love online supervision to be available at most of the time. But if I'm nearby, of course, face-to-face, one to help. I like sharing session, concern. Please see, personal advice. If I'm doing this wrongly, please don't hesitate to advise me directly. This candidate, I don't know who, but sometimes we need to give a direct advice. Focus on quality over quantity because as I mentioned, I have 10 10 or maybe more PhD student as a main supervisor, 6 as a main. So I think that's why one of the candidates just advised me focus on quality over quantity. Okay, I will take note on that. So maybe I won't take any more candidates after this. But USM won't happy with that because there are so many candidates waiting basically. Okay. Anonymous availability. Definitely, I really agree with the candidate because my availability is so limited due to so many. But I'm trying my best to be available online rather than face to face, and many more. Okay, and this one something that you need to look at as well. What to maintain. So see, unexpectedly smiling, smiling, and then saying never mind does help on certain candidate. We thought that something, we said never mind, the candidate will go away, but definitely sometimes they like never mind. So it means that okay, never mind. So maybe we can go in different direction and many more. So basically, what I'm sharing with you is not to tell me I'm the good supervisor. No, I'm still learning to become a good supervisor, but the process of of being a better supervisor is far important. Maybe we start with not the best one, but after getting feedback from our student, that's really helped. And I when I was when I become lecturer, 2009, yeah. Since then, I always love to get feedback from the students, and I keep improving myself. You know, I never fail to get the feedback, and then I will try my best to improve myself based on the feedback, as long as the feedback is constructive and very helpful for me to become a better person as academician as well as a supervisor. And that the impact of that, we can really see that the more students want to come with you, the more student, until you don't have to search for student, particularly PhD student. They are looking for you. Why? Because our supervisory have spread the word of your supervisory skill, and they're happy, and then definitely they will recommend to their colleague. Remember, our candidates is our ambassador to get more students. But when you get more students, you can choose the best one, basically, and then be transparent with the future student that you already have. How many students right now? Having you will be adding, not burden, but more challenge to me as a supervisor and many more. So that's why we need to be very clear from the beginning. If you decided to add on another candidate, why you're having a lot of candidates at the moment. So at this moment, do you have anything to share? The second point is already 11. Ayo, we have another 8 points. Hopefully, we manage to get it done by 12:30. Yes, anything that you like to share? Let me see your chat. Um, when appropriate to get. Wait, I can see you and hear you. Wait. Oh, share your feedback form. Okay, inshallah, I will share. Then is the appropriate time to give student this feedback on a supervisor? Should it every semester? Okay. Usually I do it every semester, every year. So basically every year. As a co-supervisor, how much involvement in SC? That's why when we become supervisor, we need to know that how much involvement from the beginning. For example, we need to discuss with the team, and usually what portion. For example, let me give my own example. I had experience dealing with co-supervisor. The co-supervisor only agreed to supervise 10% only on methodology only. So we need to negotiate from the beginning with the team of supervisor. So which part is you, which part is that, and then we find it okay. We agree that you will cover only the methodology and specific only the qualitative. If we as a main supervisor agreed and the co-supervisor happy with that, so everybody happy with the supervisory team. So I think that will be a nice agreement that we need to stick together. If you want to do more, it's always welcome to do more. It's always welcome to do more. In addition to that, okay. So basically, yeah, at the end of the year, usually I took at the end of the year. The more the better, but due to our own schedule and then the student as well, so perhaps once a year is a good once a year. Usually I give a second semester because after 1 year, isn't it? First semester, second semester. So inshallah, if we get feedback from the students, as a supervisor, we know that what should maintain, what we should avoid, and what else we can improve ourselves as a supervisor. Okay, so then the second point is a kind of sharing. What should a main supervisor do if the co-supervisor refuses to go through the thesis? Ah, my experience is maybe we need to specify which chapter the co-supervisor interested to to go through. So that is my approach basically. Otherwise, No, otherwise, maybe after a few reminder from the main supervisor to the co-supervisor, still do not respond. Usually what I do is when we publish paper, I won't include the co-supervisor. That is my, as a main supervisor, I do that. Those who are co-supervisor not contributing enough, not even reading the thesis, going to thesis, definitely the name of co-supervisor won't appear in any paper of the candidate. That is my within my my supervisory roles, because main supervisor have to decide that together with the candidate. Okay, that's all lah. Then I'm not going to force lah, basically co-supervisor. If a few times already reminded them to go through, and the supervisor, the co-supervisor still do not go through the thesis, then at the end, what I said in the paper, so the name of co-supervisor won't appear. There is something we communicate with them, telling them, if you do not going through all this, I could not include you in any future publication, because you did not fulfill the 4 authorship requirement. So I'm really sorry. Otherwise, you need to go through. If you want to be included, you need to go through. Otherwise, we cannot include you in the future publication, because your contribution is not enough for the authorship. That is my way of not threatening, but basically negotiating based on the authorship of the paper. I hope that kind of experience, yeah, but you can do in different ways, basically, which I think maybe you have a better way compared to me. Mine is quite aggressive, but you can use a softer version, maybe. Okay, now we have another 8 points. So let's go to the third point. Okay, we have talking about supporting growth and well-being of the candidates as well as ourselves. And then the second one is about unite with the team. So because it's very important to unite with the team, because if the supervisory teams as well as the candidates are not performing, so basically the whole team will collapse, and the collapse will give a lot of impact on the journey of our candidates during the learning. So basically, unite the team is very important, and it must be done from the beginning. The expectation, know what the roles, what are their contributions, and then what are the students' plan, what kind of policies, open door policy, what's reminding each other, and so on and so forth, made clear. And then the third one, praise others. It means that we need to praise. As a supervisors, do not jangan kedekut lah. Do not so stringent in giving praise to our candidates if the candidates have done very good job. If the candidate done very job, just say that you did a very good job. Congratulations, and keep moving. So that kind of praise, sometimes that's really, that's really matter. And in fact, I like this quote: a word of encouragement during a failure is worth more than an hour of praise after success. This is something from my own experience as well. When a candidate, there is a candidate, that the candidate is mature candidate, and the candidate is older than me, because I'm still young anyway. Candidate is then candidate have a lot of commitment. Female candidate and female wife have got kids. Then this still working, while working, doing PhD, and then the candidate almost feels so depressed, and then said demotivated and want to quit. Basically want to quit basically, because she felt that it's a failure. They say that I'm failure, doctor. I could not cope with the plan, everything that we already discussed, as well as I myself do not have the desire to continue. So there are a lot of things, because he said blah 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 blah. There are so many reasons, and then the most important factor is because really, I just do not have no support, to go through all this. And then whatever I do is basically just for the past 2 semesters, I don't do anything, even though I know there are a lot of things. So uh, I still remember this one. I know the third place other. So basically, what I did basically, okay, now before that you did very well. Just said you did very well before this. What happened to you? So, you did very well before this. What happened to you? Can you share? And then she said 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now, what is your options? Option. So the candidate said that, okay, I have option. I have to quit my job for a while, but I need to get a husband consensus. I need to get husband consensus. Okay, so do you need any help from the supervisor? So yeah, doctor, I need uh, uh, I need you to talk to my husband, or maybe we can have a meeting with my husband, because my husband asked how sure you are you will be complete within 2 years. Within two years of this, of the PhD journey. If let's say you quit job for 2 years, can you guarantee for that? So from the discussion, I said to that, it's depending on how much you want. But looking at you, I think you are very positive, because from the beginning, you are very positive, you are very hardworking, and just a matter of you need more time, to be and then to engage with your PhD journey. And I believe 2 years, if you be a completely, complete engagement and a complete commitment, 2 years is a doable. However, we need to give extra time, extra time. 2 years is our target, but you need to give extra time, 6 to 12 months, because sometimes we never know what happened in between. So we negotiate with the husband as the candidate. Then at the end of the day, the husband said, okay, yes, doctor, no problem. I will support this. So my wife will focus her PhD for 2 years, and then plus minus 6 to 12 months, I will support everything. So my wife will work and have more time. And after that, with that kind of encouragement, giving, no, we give full support to the candidate within 2 years. After that, graduated. I still remember. Then, that was a very, um, in a way that risk, a decision, because the commitment, and then you can imagine if the wife quit the job, they were losing about 7 to 8,000 per month, and then all those 7 to 8,000 per month basically will be put on the husband responsibility to cover all the things. But with the good planning, with the good discussion, with the good commitment from both sides, the agreement from even from the husband, then the candidate managed to pass within 2 years. Submitted the thesis, and then after 6 months, after 2 years, go back to continue the job, and then after a few months, viva, and then after that, 1 year later, graduated, and not jeopardizing the whole family structure as well. So I think when we come to that moment, always put the things positively, and then praise if necessary, but always use a good, words and a positive word to encourage the student. We never know, our students. And then until now, the students and the husband never fail. Will call me if I'm in somewhere in near to their house, because they still remember when that almost failure time, we still give hopes and support to the students until they decided to stop. If non-stop, they haven't yet decided to stop, we need to support and give appropriate, complimentary to them, just to encourage them in that particular situation. I think that is an example of my own experience dealing with that kind of candidates maybe a few years ago. There's a formal recognition, definitely. This is something that you can do as either as a supervisor or maybe as a department, because sometimes supervisor can play a role to influence the department to have a proper way of a system to recognize their efforts. One, or maybe informal compliment. For example, you ask them how are they doing. For example, let's say, um, I always did to my candidate if let's say I didn't receive any news for 1 or 2 months, I just send them a simple message. Simple message, they already know me. Simple message, how are you doing now? I hope everything good. And then any updates that you like to tell me about your progress. And that's all. Because 1 or 2 months already, I never hear anything from them. I just give a simple message, um, asking about their health, about what they're doing, are they doing well, things right or wrong, whatsoever, and then any updates that you like to tell me. So, that's just a simple text, and believe me, after that, they give a very long text explaining everything. That is a just simple thing. Okay. Okay. Now, Um, that is the third one. Anything that you like to add on the praise others, or maybe your own experience, maybe because believe I'm still in the learning journey, but whatever I'm telling you is about the limited experience that I have, maybe worth for sharing. That's all. Maybe you have more. If you have, you can put on the chat. I can read afterward. Is there anything you know? Nothing. Okay. Now, the fourth element, we always need to expect excellence, but we need to set high expectation appropriately. Okay? So Swazi, through one, I think definitely we need to have clear position description, clear things that they need to do, and then we need to have regular feedback session with our student. Now, in the first previously is feedback to supervisor, but now is feedback supervisor to the student. So this is another important element because we really need to give feedback properly to the students. And believe me, feedback alone has a very powerful effects on learning of our students. And now, let's see feedback and criticism. So we need to differentiate, Sometimes we think that we give feedback, but basically we are not giving feedback. Basically, we are criticizing our students in appropriate manner. So how do we differentiate this one? So feedback, basically the aim is to improve performance in a positive way. Criticism is basically we want to unload our anger on the candidates because of certain things. So basically there are two things. One is very calm in nature, and the other part is a very uh, anger in nature. So basically, if let's say if when you give feedback, okay, you are in a very impulsive mood, so better not to give feedback at that time because it's not going to be feedback. Basically, it's just is unloading our dissatisfaction to the candidate performance. So this is one difference. And then feedback. Usually we are very tough on the issues. Criticism, we are tough on the person, the candidate. That's two different things because it seems that we are attacking the candidate, but the feedback is attacking the issues that the candidates are facing. They're two different things, two different things because when we give feedback, we are looking at the solution of the problems or solution to make things better or solution to improve the way we are doing things. So that particularly focus on the issues. And we rarely give feedback to criticize on the person. Apa tak comel lah, apa semua macam itu. No, no, no. It's not malas lah apa semua kan. No, yes, malas is real. But the issue is what? So do not focus on the malas thing, but focus on the issue. The issue is the thing is not getting done according to the plan. So we need to tough on the issues. And feedback, basically, we are looking for solution. But for criticism is we put blame on the candidate. Ni tak pandai lah ni tak ni lah, you lah ni lah, bla 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 bla, semuanya atas candidate kan. But basically, if you really have strong intention to give good feedback, we always think about what are the solutions and what kind of solution that we can come up together. If we cannot get right now, maybe we can continue and think about that. If you have anything, you can share with me and I will share with you as well. Examples. Example of the situation that I had before. Not one, a few candidates, PhD candidates, they have a problem with, you know, getting approval from outside. Yeah? Approval from outside. So we are discussing about, so how are we going to tackle this one, because there are a lot of issues that we need to settle. So what we do is not to blame the candidate, apalah candidate ni tak pandai, apalah you ni, lah. But what we did as a team, basically, okay, what the best way that we can go? Which one to approach first? Which one? Is there any reference for our own no practice right now? Is there anything that other people are doing the same thing like us and many more? So that's kind of solution that we trying to get so that whatever the issues that we have, the problem we have, we can solve together as a team. Yet we are setting high expectation on how to go about. And feedback always two ways, not one way. Okay, remember, feedback always two ways. It means that we get from the candidate also can interact with us and can contribute to the solution. Not only supervisor. You ambil ni, you buat. Ni ambil ni, you buat. Jangan tanya. So that is not the best practice to do. So feedback is basically two way, and then both need to have agreement. And if you're looking at the feedback itself, for example, it is kind of just illustrate how the feedback can really help us as supervisor to close the gap. So basically, for example, let's say this is our candidate position, because when we have many candidates, they start at the different, the different phase. For example, let's say I have 3 candidates. One candidate is very advanced, there are candidates very advanced. They're already here. Almost, the gap is not so much. But there are certain candidates are very novice, even though they are coming for PhD, but their level of ability, not the same, this one. But they are in the middle. So basically, we need to identify as a supervisor these gaps, because every candidate, either master or PhD, even though they are having bachelor already, but the starting point when they register and when they are with us as a supervisor, definitely different. And I think with 10 PhD students and main supervisor, I got 10 different starting points. 10 different starting points. And now we need to strategize on how to give feedback so that this gap will be closer and closer to the desired outcome. Maybe this candidate, we just need a bit push. This candidate, a bit more push. This one, maybe a lot of things we need to do. So it means that we need to give a really good feedback to this candidate, because they are at, in terms of the starting points, a bit, farther from the desired outcome. But remember, when we decided and we agreed to be a supervisor to candidate, we need to recognize and acknowledge there are gaps, and the gaps are different from one candidate to another candidate. And one size feedback will never fit all candidates. So you need to customize your feedback according to the candidate. And how do we do that? We need to know them. There's no other way. From my own experience, there's no other way to know our candidate until we know them. Until we know them. Even though sometimes the candidates are very, in terms of, for example, young. For example, is very young, but they are very advanced. Even though young, but though the candidates are very mature, but in terms of the desired outcome, they are very far behind. So we need to really know our candidate and to pace accordingly. And any strategies that you use similar to anyone won't work to everyone. So we need to a bit more flexible in giving our feedback, and the feedback must be customized to our candidate. How to get that? We need to know our candidate. That's all. Okay. How to know our candidate? Yes, I already told you. They need to support growth. We need to have, to unite with them, have a few sessions on regular basis, and many more. Once we have known them, basically it's easier for us to close the gap and to get the gaps shrinken and then closer to the desired outcome. Desired outcome depending on the level of their study. If undergraduate, so the desired outcome will be different. Master will be different, PhD will be different. So basically, all this information, okay, whatever information we given on others' performance and the existing discrepancy, this one, between the actual and the state. So basically, feedback is closing the gap. So whenever we give feedback, basically our aim is to close the gap. Okay, when the gap is getting closer, you can see that the candidate will move and will not only move, basically they will progress. And you can see that the difference, for example, when they registered in the first semester, but when they in the fourth semester, you can see their knowledge, their skill, the way they think, the way they write, the way they give feedback, the way they communicate, the way they put things together, completely different. And I have seen that kind of candidate as far as my limited experience with a few candidates that I have. So it's work. But we need to know them. The knowing them is challenging. It's challenging because sometimes they can look very, very convincing from the outside, physically very convincing, very confident. But when we look at the work, not as confident as they look. So that is something that is worth for us to develop our own skill on giving feedback. And perhaps there are certain things that I would like to share, the feedback areas. I think there is something that quite important as well, because we need to be mindful on the areas that we give feedback to our candidates, because there are certain areas is no area. There are certain areas, yes area. I mean that this area we can touch as much as we want, but there are certain areas that trying to avoid something on that. So the first area is about the task. So basically, this is always we want to focus. So when we give feedback, we focus on what task the students are doing now. So are they doing well? Are they performing well? Are they understood very well? And many more. So this is about task. So we focus feedback on the task. Because I think the task is basically if for the master as well as PhD, they already have the timeline, they already have milestone, so they already have the objective. So the task is very easily to be traced and then to track down based on whatever they already planned and already approved by department, by supervisor, as well as understood by the candidate. So task. And the second area that perhaps you want to focus is the process. Because sometimes they complete the task, but the process might be different, For example, let's say, yes, they come up with the chapter 4, but how they got it, the chapter 4, so they ask other people to write. So that is not correct as well, because they complete the task, but not on their own. The process should be on their own, because when we declared on the master thesis or PhD thesis, this thesis is the candidate's own work. So we need to ensure that the process is by themselves, their work, not other people's work. They can consult, no problem, but we need to verify whether the process is being done correctly or not, or wrong. So the process, this is the safe area, the green area. And the other green area is about self-regulation. This is something that's self-monitoring, directing, and regulation of action. For example, let's say after we have given feedback, so the feedback is you need to improve. Are they taking effort to do more? For example, let's say they are weak in, for example, in univariate analysis, for example. So are they taking any efforts to learn about the univariate analysis? Are they taking any effort to join any course? Or maybe they are taking effort to discuss with the supervisor without supervisor being telling them, because they know their weaknesses. So how they're dealing with it, the weaknesses. And the red area is self or personnel. Personal evaluation affect about the student. Let me give you examples afterward. For example, for the task, we ask about, do you manage to write the chapter 5? For example, let's say WhatsApp, we are using the medium WhatsApp. So we contact the candidate. So if, okay, do you manage to write the chapter 5? Yes, doctor, I manage. So I will submit by next week. Okay, fine. So another example of process, do you know how to write discussion in chapter 5? Because discussion, isn't it? So this is something that we need to, because we have read through, we have read through the chapter 5, but we found that the discussion is just like reporting the results, not really discussed. So we asked them, do you know how to write discussion in chapter 5? At the end of the day, no, doctor, because I have no idea about how to write discussion. I thought it's reporting. So now it's another feedback to that. Okay, now come and then let's discuss how I will give an example, for example, on how to write discussion based on whatever you write. I say that is message. And self-regulation, why else do you need to facilitate your chapter 5 writing? Because we have give no process whatsoever. So what else? So this is something that you want to motivate them to learn more. What else instead of this? So this 1, 2, 3 area. But this is something that we try to avoid. Do you know? During my PhD time, I wrote my thesis on my own now. Tak ada lah, duduk macam ni apa semua kan. So trying to avoid all this discouragement. And it is very, very personal. Maybe because you are so competent. Remember, everyone, as I mentioned just now in the feedback, the starting point of every candidate is not similar. Maybe why we can write on our own, why we can write in our own without much on bugging with our candidate, because maybe we are the one who are at the front, because we are very good, we are very advanced, so that the gaps between what desired outcome and our side is very close. But for those candidates who are far from desired outcome, they really need to, really struggle. They really need to guidance and so on and so forth. Perhaps, trying to avoid this kind of discouragement when you give feedback. So usually don't focus on personal or self in terms of feedback. You can, for example, let's say, for example, the attitude problem. Then perhaps you can touch in different way for the attitude problem. If let's say the candidate is very good attitude and so on and so forth, so please do not put this kind of discouragement and comparing the candidate with you. There is not, because remember, everybody start at the different starting point. Maybe why you are GOT, because you are GOT previously, you are doing on your own very well, you publish a lot and many more because you are here. Not, but maybe the candidate is farther from here, but they have the willingness to keep studying, but to pursue study, so that hopefully they can reach the desired outcome and can become a scholar, maybe a PhD or master and so on. So perhaps these are the feedback areas, and please try to avoid the personal things unless it is necessary. But most of the time, even literature say that it is always good not to tap on this area. Just tap task, process, and self-regulation. The self, if disciplinary problem, then you can put on this. Otherwise, do not compare. During my time, when I was in University A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, or maybe whatsoever, because it's not good for the candidate. And from the literature as well, candidates really discouraged and demotivated when any supervisor told them and comparing their competency with the supervisor competency once upon a time before. So that is something, perhaps we can learn from the literature as well. So yeah, I think that's about the fourth thing. Okay, do you have anything to ask? So far, you are keep quiet and just no, I'm the one who talking. Yes, maybe. Do you need anything to clarify? Oh, tak ada. Tak ada chat pun tak ada ni. Faham semua kot? Okay lah, saya teruskan lah. Ada sejam lagi ni, ada banyak point lagi. Okay. This is the fifth. Oh, we are just half, and then we have another 1 hour. Hopefully, I can talk less now. Okay. Okay. Now we have being exposed support growth, and then the second one is about to unite with the team, and then the third one is about what? Just now, anything? Anyone can remind me what is the third one? Nobody. So, good. Praise others, isn't it? And the fourth one? How about the fourth one? Okay. Wah, dah ada tu. Okay, ingat-ingat. Bagus. Okay, good. Okay, now. So, the fifth one is require accountability. So, basically, when we are dealing, even though we are trying to guide as much as possible to our candidates, but at the end of the day, we need to put some accountability to our candidates because they have to learn about upholding responsibility as in their own capacity. So this is where we need to ensure that we need to create a culture. Okay, we need to create a culture as supervisor within your territory, within your team, supervisory team. We need to create a culture to uphold or give opportunity for other people to take the responsibility. Okay, because why? Because everybody in the team must work together, need to know their own responsibility. Because supervisor is basically if I always remind to my my candidate from the beginning, as a supervisor, I'm just your co-pilot because the license, the license is yours later on. It's yours. Therefore, I'm guiding you if just to ensure that you are on the right track, on the right path. If you are trying to give to go for different direction, but you go to the same destination, even though different path. So there is co-pilot. The whole thing of this journey is yours. Okay, so you are the drivers. I'm the co-driver. So you drive because you will get the license. I'm already have the license, but I try my best to use all my experience, to be with you along your journey. And sometimes, at certain rest point, I will ask you to drive alone. To drive alone because I need rest for a while. I will keep track on you using the GPS. I know where you're driving, even though I'm not beside you. So the message what I'm trying to tell to the candidate is, there's sometimes I always be beside you, but there are certain things when you are alone, you need to keep driving. You need to continue the research, even though I'm not beside you, because sometimes international student, particularly international student, is basically they are collecting data in their own country, and then there are certain situation we cannot go there because there are a lot of issues. And then currently in COVID, there's some more issues. Previously, the budget and the way of we carry out the research, and we have already face supervisor there and many more. So that's why sometimes we need to from the remote, we call it remote supervision. Okay, remote supervision. But at the end of the day, the license is the candidate. So we need to create the culture. Because if I looking at literature, why we need to create this culture? Why we need to create the culture of upholding responsibility as a candidate, particularly if you are PhD candidate, because at the end of the day, once you graduated with PhD, you are having a novice scholar. You are novice competent scholar. So basically, when you are novice competent scholar, there are certain set of skills that you are good at upon your graduation as a PhD holder. Okay, and then the culture of bringing responsibility, allowing our candidate to make certain decision, which is at their at their level will be interesting. Example that I can give you, if for example, if you have grant, okay, or maybe if you are applying a grant, okay, the responsibility to prepare and to fill up the form we give to the students. Because why? We want to train them on how to prepare a proposal to getting a fund for the research. But to review, to ensure that everything in order is the supervisor lah, basically, definitely. Because at the end of the day, if the grant got approval, so basically supervisor will be the main researcher, not the candidates. But because of we want to create the culture of being responsible, they are upholding certain responsibility in that particular area. So we allow the students to fill in the form and then having feeling, and experience on how to prepare a research proposal to secure grant. And the second part, if let's say the grant is approved, for example, let's say after we send and then got approved, for example, we got FRGS, based on the students' proposal, the student prepared according to the format, and then we as supervisor just a matter of refining and then reviewing and then to ensure that everything in order. And then in terms of the budget, in terms of budget, we allow the student to put up his budget or her budget. Okay, but definitely we need to refine sometimes. And then there is some of the training as well. And once you get approved, based on the budget they already agreed between the supervisor and the supervisee, we allow them to manage the budget. We allow them to manage the budget, and then we respect the candidates to manage the budget according to their a milestone. And as a supervisor, whatever budget that I would like to use using this grant money, so I will discuss with the supervisor. For example, let's say we got FRGS, and then the candidate is outside international. So we discuss about, so for example, do you need any research assistant to help you organizing the, for example, the certain things that is at the administrative part. So the candidate said, yes, definitely, doctor, I need some research assistant to help me in, organizing the meeting and then booking place for the intervention and many more. Then say, okay, do you have any prefer research assistant that you like to, anything, doctor, because you know better than me. So there's a kind of upholding responsibility to train them on how to manage the budget, and they know exactly what the budget is all about, and being transparent as well. So this is kind of the culture we are trying to create. Okay, and then why? Okay, one is this is something that from the literature, because when we create the right culture, it will put the right attitude and values. So because we want the candidates know when they graduated, they know the values of having or upholding responsibility in the team. So attitude and values. The second one is the spirituality, because sometimes with the influence of this, it can boost the spiritual. Spiritually mean that not only the keagamaan, but basically the motivation and so on and so forth. So sometimes they feel more spirited, to make things better. And then it will drive the ambition and drive. For example, when we put the right culture, suddenly, without knowing, they already, have certain things in their own way. Oh, okay, I want to be this one. I want to be this one. And then if, for example, if I become a supervisor later on, I will ensure that I make the same thing. The right culture I will impose as well. I created in our own, our own territory when I become supervisor, and many other things. And the second part is when put a culture into context. So basically, it provide opportunity for the candidates to thrive in their own community. So because we are the academic community, when we put the right culture, and then we give sense of responsibility to our candidate, and we also put our sense of responsibility on our own as well. So there's kind of accessibility to the opportunity for them to grow as a scholar later. So this is something that culture will create impact on many aspects if we put the right culture in the right place, in the right moment. So that's number 5. We have under 1 hour. Okay. The sixth one is verify potential. So once we already put the right, the right culture, which is putting accountability on our student appropriately, now is to verify the potential, because to become a scholar, to become a master holder, or maybe to hold a degree, you need to ensure that you have that kind of potential. Because to verify potential, we need to have a platform. So that is quite logic, isn't it? If you want to verify the potential, if you want to enhance the potential, we need to give them a platform. And this platform is the opportunity for them to showcase or to demonstrate what they have. So basically, if we really want to verify the potential, we need to create an atmosphere of hope and confidence so that it will provide the supervising opportunity to succeed. For example, let's say if you have grant, if you have the conference location, instead of us be in the conference, why not give them? There's an opportunity for them to use the money just now, and then to present the paper. And then when they present the paper, there's opportunity to get feedback from the external audience, not only from supervisors. And then the other part is related to the high expectation just now, because if we put the opportunity in place, so it will help the student to achieve the expectations that we have imposed on the supervisor. So the opportunity for them to showcase their potential is very important. And for the supervisor, there is a good platform for us to verify the potential as a candidate, either master candidate or maybe PhD candidate. So verification of potential that need to come with the opportunity. Why opportunity is important? Because talent can be taught, but it can be awakened. So the opportunity sometimes will awake the talent of our candidate that the candidate themselves do not know before. That's the power of the opportunity if we give them at the right time, at the right moment, and the right place. So, as a supervisor, how to verify potential? If you have grant money whatsoever, and then the grant is from the candidate's proposal, and there is a location for the training, for the conference, or many more, allow them to use those money, and then for them to have the opportunity to demonstrate the capability as a candidate in that particular field, and hopefully we can use that platform to verify the potential. And sometimes, we never know at that moment that really awakening of the talent that they themselves do not know before. Maybe we know as a supervisor, they have the talent, but the candidate sometimes do not realize he or she has that talent. So with the opportunity, it is awakening of the talents inside them that has never been awakened before, because nobody give the opportunity. So when we talk about opportunity, it is something that's very, very important. Okay. So number 7. So we have verified the potential. Then now is a time for us to instill independence. So just now we already create culture of upholding individual responsibility, and then we verify the potential. Now it's time for us to instill independence. Appropriate delegation encourage risk taking. Now, how are we going to decide to give more autonomy or to give less autonomy of supervisory? So do you have any experience? How do you give autonomy to your candidates? Based on what parameters? Anyone? Do you like to share?
Well, maybe according to their ability.
Okay, so one is depending on the ability. Yes. Any other thoughts from others? How many participants we have now? I haven't checked. Wait, we have 38. Okay, good number. Yes. Any from your experience, how do you decide on how much autonomy you give to your candidates? Any idea? Boleh kau panggil. No need lah panggil, everybody already adapt lah. You want to speak, just unmute and then speak. No problem. Otherwise, I keep continue speaking. Based on the collaboration. Wait, let me to the chat board. Okay. My student has put inside and need full guidance. He is unable to work independently. In the end, I got so frustrated. Okay. I also wrote a proposal because it's coming to his second year of candidacy. It's my method wrong. Okay, we can discuss about this at the end. Okay, that's quite interesting. Okay. Boleh kau panggil ni, okay, never mind. Is it possible that some students are just not cut out for this? Okay. Based on the collaboration, they should be open to collaborate. Okay, now perhaps this from my own experience as well as reading as well. Okay. Okay, so basically there are two things: guidance level and student ability. So for example, let's say if the student ability is very low, okay, is very low, then definitely guidance will be higher. And in this case, there will be less autonomy. If you found that the student in this that definitely there will be less autonomy. And usually we expect during maybe a second or the first, maybe the first year or maybe toward the second year. But if let's say the student still struggling, and having a lot of problem, even they are already in the in the more senior year, I think that's the intervention. Okay, that's the intervention. But because the usual way of students progress is basically from the earlier year, for example, year 1, year 2, yes, definitely more guidance, and then less autonomy. So you mean that, but toward the end, the student should be less guidance, which is should have more autonomy. And based on this diagram, I always explain to my candidates, whoever that I will take, I will say to them, okay, regardless of their experience, there are certain candidates very advanced. They don't even like to have guidance, even from the earlier stage. But there are students, yes, they really need more guidance. But what I always be transparent with them. So I will just draw this diagram. So okay, for example, they just registered. They just registered from the program. Okay, just let's say in the program. So I will draw this simple diagram. I say, okay, this is a guidance level. There is a guidance level. Can I draw something? Can I draw? Okay, so I will draw like this. Okay, this is buruknya drawing saya. Tak apalah. Sebab tak pakai pen ya, susah betul pakai mouse. Okay, tak apa. So I will tell them, okay, this is a guidance level because you are in the first year. So I will guide you a bit more. Okay, but toward the end, for example, end of second year, so I would expect that the guidance will be lesser compared to the first year. The second year will be more independent, but still, a medium guidance from me. But if let's say toward the third year, fourth year, you are still not able to be independent, we need to discuss. See, we need to discuss because why? The normal process, a normal development of any student, okay, the independency level will be reduced, will be increased as you progress to third and fourth year. For example, let's say PhD student. If you're still having problem and still, even though you are fourth year, still at this level, for example, we need to talk. We need to talk. So we need to talk, and I need to give a lot of feedback to you. and perhaps the feedback might be might be something that not nice to discuss, but it's important for you. So I make it clear from the beginning. This diagram, this is something that we expect. Okay. So and so far most of candidate of my own candidate under my supervision, they know already this expectation. More guidance in the beginning, but toward the end, less guidance, because that is something they need to demonstrate. Otherwise, how can they hold the scroll if their ability as a students are not according to the desired outcome? Remember when we talk about the feedback, the desired outcomes? So basically, toward the end, the gap will be closer and you will become more independent, but still need supervision from the supervisor. But toward the end, it will be minimal supervisor because you are already on your own way to become a scholar or maybe a holder of that particular degree. So it is something that I always emphasize to my candidate. Perhaps I would encourage, for any supervisor, particularly new supervisor or maybe experienced supervisor, get this transparent enough when we first met our candidate, guideline. So first year, I will guide you more. I know you are independent, but allow me to, give guidance for the earlier year. But later on, you can, taper down the guidance, and you are having more autonomy and more independency as you are expected to be. Okay, you are expected to be. Okay, and then how to answer this one? We will keep this to the end. But I think more or less I already told you, if let's say they already, having this kind of situation, usually what I did, I will call, I will explain again, and then, for PhD, for someone to have PhD, if you're still depending on supervisor, to write, to be not independent, I think I'm not really sure what you are going to face, as well as I think I have certain limitation as a supervisor because I have my role to ensure your independency as well, so that whenever you hold the degree is reflecting your ability for those who are the holder for that degree. Okay, so usually I will be very transparent with them. Okay, so you done with that? So Instill Independent. Okay, number 8, share continuously. This is something that I would like to to share something. One is sharing continuously, and then but the most important is the listening part. Being transparent is yes, but listening part. Usually, I don't know the rest. When I was very young supervisor, still young, but I would say the novice supervisor, I tend to talk more than to listen. There's more until one time when I got feedback, the student said that, "Doctor, please allow us to talk too. We have some ideas as well to to share with you. So can you give us a few minutes just to convey our ideas to you?" And then I was okay. Yes, you may talk. Because at that moment when I was a new supervisor and having the first candidate like that, so so ambitious, so want to share everything until we forgot that we need to listen. You need to listen. So this is something that I would like to emphasize. So when we listen, basically there are mnemonic for that. So one is when we listen, we need to look interested, get interested. I mean that we need to show that we are interested to listen to them. Sometimes we think we listen, but basically we are sitting, we are not focusing on them, and we are just rushing and many more. So basically we are not listening. What I is involve yourself by responding. So that is very important. When they are talking to you, we need to give respond appropriately so that they know that we are listening to them. They are listening to them. Stay on target. So this is something that usually whatever we listen to the students, we need to stay on target. For example, if let's say you want to resolve something, so do not be dwell with so many problems. Sometimes students always get for the beginning they talk about the academic, then toward the end they start to sidetrack. They discuss something else. They discuss non something that is not supposed to listen. They're talking about that candidate. They're talking about this candidate and many more. So perhaps as a supervisor, maybe we can know if they are sidetracking. So we just okay. So just now we talked about this. Would you like to explain on this more? Just to stay on target. So make them to stay on the track and test your understanding. For example, let's say this is something that we need to do as well when we are listening. For example, the candidate say that I have problems. Okay, you have problems. So, do you mean your problem is related to that, that particular issues that you mentioned to me before? Because you want to test our understanding whether we understand the right things or they are talking about something else. So this is very important. And E is evaluate the message. Sometimes a certain thing that candidates told us is basically is very not the real thing, not the real thing. They're just making up the thing. You know? For example, let's say the candidate said, "Okay, doctor, I have problem with with money. For example, so I can afford to pay fees and many more." But when we evaluate the message, when we look at the way he, they use money, the way lifestyle, the way everything, the job, the we have scholarship, it's very unlikely the students have that can unless they are using money for something else. So sometimes they want to get your money support lah basically. Doktor ada duit dah nak pinjam sikit. And there's something up to that level. I have a lot of problem. But if let's say the genuine case, then it's okay because we can refer to many, to many tabung that we have. But sometimes just they make something not so concrete lah. Usually trivial and just 1 hour money. But there's examples. Okay, and then N is neutralize your feelings. So that is very important as well. When we listen, sometimes they are talking about you, or maybe your colleague. So at that moment, the most important is try to be neutral and professional, because to stay calm and not impulsive is very important when you are listening to your candidates. So this is something that we need to try lah. I'm also trying to my best to do with my candidates on the listening part. And definitely, continuous sharing is not only listening, but you can use your WhatsApp. If, for example, let's say you are having good articles, for example, then you want to share with your candidate. So usually you give link to them. Okay, please read on this one. I think it's very relevant to you. And the candidate as well, sometimes, doctor, I got a new article. So would you like to me to send to you? It's quite, just want to see whether it's all right or not all right, the article, and many more. So this is about share continuously, because by sharing continuously, basically, we are getting to know each other better. And then definitely we are upgrading ourselves in many aspects when we share continuously. Sharing is caring anyway. And then number 9, optimize ownership. Okay, so this is another important things, not only to instill independence, but we need to let them feel that they are the owner of their project. Sometimes the candidates feel that they're just doing the research officer job, RA job. There are candidates who are feeling that basically they are not the PhD candidate. They are just doing whatever supervisor asks them to do. Sometimes are a research assistant, sometimes a research officer, sometimes clerk, sometimes driver, sometimes there are so many, which is not in the right in the right what call it, in the right role of a PhD candidate or master candidate. So I have been, um, I myself do not have that kind of experience, but it is something that other candidates who are sharing their experience with me. The other candidate, PhD or master student, no, they are talking about not doing the thing that they're supposed to doing. So I think there is always good to have to instill the ownership by putting them in the right, in the right place, in the right place. Perhaps the planning session, for example, if you have your candidate, you have strategic planning as well, not only for big organizations. Sometimes we do strategic planning. Okay, now if let's say A happen, what will be B? What will be the alternative? What will be the plan is next line if let's say this fail? For example, in the COVID situation right now, my many candidates already anticipate that they are not going to be able to carry out the plan as it is because of the situation. So they mentioned to us that can we just stop at phase 2 because phase 2 is already fundamental and a lot of data without putting the phase 3. So there's a kind of discussion because why? We want to let them to feel the ownership of the project. The project is basically theirs, not only supervisor. Because when people feel that they own the project, they will work more and I think they will be more motivated. And creating those opportunity for supervisor to contribute to this project will be very, very important. But there are certain situations because the grant is basically not based on the proposal by the candidates, and the candidate is doing the project, but creating the opportunity for the candidate to feel the ownership of being part of the proposal or the project is very important. Very important. Kenapa tak boleh ni? Okay. So basically, nothing is more expensive than a missed opportunity. I mean that give them opportunity to be part of the team as they are the owner of the project. Maybe because sometimes even though it's not true honor, but having that kind of emotions or the feelings of owning the project is very, very important because of the opportunity. And when we talk about opportunity, why it's so important? Because when we give opportunity, as I mentioned before, basically it's actualized individual potential. Remember the previous one that I mentioned were verified potential, but by giving appropriate opportunity to increase the ownership, basically it's actualization of individual potential. And the actualization of individual potential has been reported to harnessing their learning. So this is important because why? Whatever they are doing, basically want to harness their learning, learning ability, learning strategy, so that they can become a scholar at the end. And then taking hold, it means that they are recognized and making a contribution to be part of the whole project. So it is very important as well. And then direction in life. because sometimes being the right place at the right time really helps to create opportunity for them to pursue a new direction in life. So this particularly those who are master and PhD project, PhD student, they are given a lot of opportunity. The direction in life is far better than those who are getting less opportunity. So it's about opportunity again. And last but not least, because if let's say they are aiming for certain growth in the career, so this opportunity really help them to grow and to build their career in a better way, because the opportunity rise when meeting other scholars. For example, students make themselves available to work. They are the one who are talking about the work, even though it is not they are fully proposal because they're part of the project. But when they feel the ownership, they're given the right opportunity, no chance to work with different peoples, and then trying to present, demonstrate their ability, that will lead to a satisfying career in the future because they have gone through the whole process. So providing again opportunity to candidate to actualize their individual potential is very, very important, so that the ownership of the project will be felt by our candidate as well. But if let's say in certain case the proposal is from the candidate, there is not so much problem because the problem is from them, the proposal from them. But those who are just taking the proposal for their PhD, so that is something that we need to really make them feeling the ownership of the project. And last but not least, we already at 12. Reinforce relationship. So shared with care and with and care about supervisor is something something is we shouldn't miss this part, because getting to know what motivates individual supervisor is important. And then again, creating opportunity for supervisor to share personal and family accomplishment is sometimes is appropriate as well. So when it comes to the number 10, it is more on the non-formal thing, but it's important to motivate candidates to do better in their journey, in the PhD or master journey. So I think this is something that uh, we would like to take care of as well, because by having a good relationship and reinforced relationship with our candidates is sometimes the D factor for the success. So nothing reinforces a professional relationship more than enjoying success with someone. So basically, sometimes um, the the candidate sharing with us, wah, anak dia dapat semua A dalam peperiksaan. So that's kind of motivation. Anak kita tak dapat semua A kan, so kita pula rasa depressed. Dia anak dia semua dapat A kan, wah dapat dia tu dapat ni. Okay, never mind, that is something that they like to share with us. So just sharing the enjoyment with them. So sometimes the enjoyment will reinforce our relationship with the candidate as well. So basically, if you realize the mnemonic, whatever we have discussed is within the supervisor itself, SUPERVISOR. So basically, whatever I have shared with you, the 10 essential supervisor skill is basically supervisor. S, support growth. U, unite. P, praise. Expect excellence. Required accountability. Verify potential. Instill independence. Shed or continuously. Optimize ownership. Reinforce relationship. So these are basically supervisor. So at this moment, anything that you like to, share or maybe ask or discuss. So yeah, I open. I have a few more slides. Maybe 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe 4 slides. Yeah. And then we can close our session. Yeah. Before that, anything that you like to, to share from your side, or maybe to ask that maybe I can share, or maybe others also can share their experience regarding your question. Yeah. Anyone? Anyone? Yes, anyone? Anybody home? Tengok nama-nama ni kejap. Okay, so yes, anything that you like to discuss or share or anything? Yeah.
Hello.
Yes. Who is talking?
Kak Iman ni.
Kak Aiman, yes.
Okay. Pernah ada seorang student dulu, saya jadi co-supervisor lah. Then kita bagi, apa dia panggil, time, deadline kan. Tapi student dia ada banyak alasan untuk datang jumpa supervisor lah. Dan saya co-supervisor. Tapi dia claim dia datang jumpa main supervisor, tapi at the end of the day tu macam bila contact main supervisor, kalau dia claim seminggu tiap-tiap hari datang, rupanya mungkin sekali dua saja dia datang seminggu tu jumpa main supervisor. Jadi kalau student macam ni kita nak buat macam mana? Pada pendapat saya pula.
Oh, yang tu kena
Dia banyak alasan. Kita bagi deadline tapi at the end of the day tu memang dia tak akan datang ataupun dia cuba bagi banyak alasan untuk tidak datang berjumpa supervisor.
Okay. Yang tu pun I got some experience as well dealing with that kind of students, you know. Always give always give reason lah. There are so 1,001 reasons, anything, and the reason is quite convincing. Okay, so what I did, this is based on my experience, what I did to this kind of students. So basically, one that I will try to call and meet that kind of student. So I call the students. Yang ni international ke local? Kak Aiman, this one international or local?
Yang ni local, memang dah call. Kadang kalau dia angkat tu dia akan bagi reason lah. Tapi bila dah second time tu kita call dia tak angkat langsung.
Okay, so similar lah call and then call. My one is international student, your is local student. So maybe the setting will be different lah. But call and usually lambat sikit lah nak angkat kan. Then once call, give message. Can I meet you maybe face to face? Kan, panggil face to face call. Sebab apa? The first thing is we want to understand lah why what's happened basically, because there are so many factors, why students having that kind of problem, particularly with the so-called students in the problems, in difficulty, particularly student in difficulty. So I will consider that student the signs are showing that the student is in difficulty. So we need to treat them properly lah, basically respect them first. So call, I meet face to face. Ingat lagi jumpa dalam bilik ni kan, dalam bilik, and then luckily student say, okay doctor, next week I will be here. Oh, rupanya international student tak ada kat Kelantan, that's why. Kan, not even in the campus. Then I got okay, no wonder when I call and ask the students to meet me in the campus, the candidate is not around, because one is not around, basically he's not in the campus anyway, he's somewhere else. So okay, but luckily when I message a few times, so the candidate say, okay doctor, I will come next week to Kelantan, and maybe around dia pula yang tentukan tarikh kita kan. Dah lah kita ni sibuk, sabar je lah kan. Tapi tak apalah.
Itulah, sama lah dengan student
kan. Dah lah kita ni macam-macam. But we need to be patient lah. Our intention is trying to understand the situation. Kan. Kita tak nak jump to the boat lah, nak student salah ke whatever. There must be a good reason lah why that's happened. So panggil dia, fair enough. When we meet together, and then I call another supervisor as well lah, because I was co-supervisor as well, and then I call the main supervisor to come over and to discuss, and then I call pengurusi penyelaras program as well. So 3 lah I call and then discuss with the candidates, and then candidates said that one, kenapa dia tak respond, because doctor said, I'm very sorry because I'm working, I do not have money, but I have to go to Kuala Lumpur to work to get some money so that I can pay the fee, because even now the fee ni yuran the fee I haven't paid any, and they said to me they will terminate my candidature if I don't pay. That's why I have no option in Kelantan. I could not get any good work, so I need to go to Kuala Lumpur to get some work and to get money to pay the fee. Now then we realize, okay, there's a real problem, and we can see that the student is really sincere, and we can see bergenang air mata dia, kan? With bergenang air mata dia, nampak lah, nampak dia macam tahanlah sebab nak menangis, kan? Not because I don't want to come whatsoever, because I really need the money. Otherwise, dia kata how can I support my study? So that is genuine, and what later on kita as a department kita cari jalan lah untuk bantu dia, kan, takat mana kita boleh. So luckily we did not jump into any conclusion about the student. Then after we got all this information, now the international student is really really having trouble lah basically, kan. So itu antara pengalaman yang kami dapat lah daripada situ. We almost nak buat surat amaran lah, nak buat surat tu lah, surat macam-macam lah, kita dan kepala ni kan geram, kan. But when we know the story behind what's happening, then we start to appreciate, okay, there are some reason lah why this candidate having that kind of, we call it behavioral problem lah. Panggil tak ni lah kelas apa semua macam-macam lah. Nak panggil supervisor pun susah nak. Tapi there are stories behind that. Yang your situation, I do not know what's the problem. Have you explored the problems with the student? Have you able to have the team met with the student trying to figure out, to understand what happening to the candidate? I'm not sure. And then furthermore, it's local. I don't think masalah duit kot, kan? There must be something else lah. That is my own experience. I explore first lah. How about your experience? What happened at the end?
At the end tu student memang tak dapat mencapai. Dia dapat hantar dia punya thesis. Thesis tu tidak certified lah.
Oh, okay.
Supervisors, dan student memang ada problem lah, banyak problem. And last kali dia berhenti.
Okay lah. Candidate tu pun last kali berhenti juga.
Candidate berhenti, memang nampak dia tak minat lah, sebab bila kita force bagi deadline few times pun memang dia tak comply to the deadline. Kalau kita bagi kerja pun masa deadline dia datang tapi tak habis kerja. Memang few times jadi macam tu. Even dengan main supervisor pun kita bagi deadline tak hantar, sampai dah nak hantar thesis baru dia bagi untuk correction. Lagi 2-3 hari nak printing.
So,
memang problematic.
So tak apalah kalau in that case is kata a genuine problematic students lah, kan?
Betul.
Kan, but in that sense we have done our best as a supervisor. As far as we are concerned, we have trying our best to to facilitate whatever we can. But at the end of the day, just we mentioned just now, the ownership of not ownership lah, the accountability lah basically. That's theirs lah basically. They need to drive the car lah basically, not the supervisor, kan?
some of the student tu dia tak realise yang dia sebenarnya actually tak minat the course. Until the end tu macam dia insight dia very poor lah.
Tak apa, no problem. That is not supervisor punya masalah lah. Basically, kan, supervisor have done their own best lah.
Satu lagi problem I encounter is actually among female students lah. They tend not to follow our advice. Sometimes, not all the time lah. We kadang-kadang kita advise untuk tukar dia punya katalah apa penulisan dia tu kita tukar. Kita minta dia tukar certain things, but after kita check balik means dia tak follow. Tapi kita
That's
respect
happened to me as well. That's happened to me as well.
Tapi more common in male students compared to female lah.
Yeah, my student as well, male student. Male student
betul.
as well. But my student usually international student.
Yang ni tak, yang ni so far local student lah yang buat hal ni. Bukanlah buat hal, it's not a big matter, but they tend not to follow lah. Sometimes and then kena tegur dengan orang lain, then baru kata, mungkin baru kata supervisor cakap tu betul kan. Tapi among male students lah.
Surprisingly, my own experience dealing with the same thing. You know what? When we review, we put comment, you know, in the Microsoft Word, track change and comment, isn't it? Track change and comment. So a few times, for example, the first time I sent to that candidate, then they sent back to me as previous version, and then the second time I give same, and then I decided to put online meeting with the students. Okay, can you show me your Microsoft display? It seemed that you didn't see my comment at all. I said in a bit marah lah kan, dah sampai 4-5 kali pun the same thing, and then surprisingly the candidate showed to me the screen, share the screen, and you know, all our comment did not appear on their screen, in their Microsoft Word. No wonder the students didn't get the feedback. There are some sort of something, you know, between the software, because that one use Apple, mine use Microsoft, and somehow those versions are incompatible, and therefore all the comments and the whatever we put down, the student couldn't see at all. And then the student said, "Doctor," I said, because we need to justify, you know, why you didn't put all the changes. Then I asked politely, can you see my comments that I put on the comment in the Microsoft Word? Then the candidate say, "What comment, doctor? I didn't see anything. It seemed that you are accepting all my changes." I said, "All the changes, you didn't even do the change." Then surprisingly, you know, after we rectify the problem, then after that the candidate basically, you know, adjust according to the comment. So we need to, maybe it's worth to explore, even to see their screen. Can you show me your screen? Let me show. Is there anything wrong with your computer whatsoever? It seems that you cannot see at all my comment. Then fair enough. Basically, the student couldn't see our comment. No wonder kan, 4-5 kali pun duduk bertengkar benda yang sama juga. That's my experience lah. But the most important lesson is we need to rectify first lah, whether it's a real problem or just due to the technical problem. Sometimes technical problem will lead to will lead to miscommunication between between supervisor and the candidates. So that's why we need to get in touch and then look at the screen. Sometimes it works. But I don't know. Have you checked that? Have you checked that whether they get the message or not?
Yeah, I've checked. They mentioned that sometimes it's not because of they do not cannot see the comment. They can see the comment, but to their opinion is a little bit different, and that's why sometimes we have to explain a lot lah, how to get them to understand why this is the need in the thesis kan.
But have you checked with counter check with other supervisor as well? The same problem?
No lah,
I think
because the students really go and meet the other supervisors, because the other supervisors supervise different area, not
it's good sometimes because unite with your team, isn't it? It's good sometimes to get
okay.
together among your supervisor. What I did basically, I asked the other supervisor, to be with me and then to check concurrently. Maybe together we see the same screen to ensure that we do not miss anything, or maybe this sometimes different styles between the supervisor. So sometimes.
With regard to the research methodology and etc. Yes, I do clarify with the other supervisors lah, but this one is regarding the content lah, the content which is needed to be inside the thesis, but students, dia bukan refuse, he did not refuse, but he mentioned that it's already in the, let's say, in the certain paragraph, so he don't want to mention it again lah.
Okay. I think even the content as well is good to to use your team to form out the the content, because sometimes content is something that depending on how much we know content, methodology is quite standard, we can see, but the content maybe is worth to triangulate with our team, supervisory team, because sometimes it will give some balance in our views, and perhaps it's good and it's stronger if we can put a team feedback to the students. Sometimes what I experience, for example, when we have 3 supervisors and if we give three separate comments, the candidate get confused, and then which one to follow? One. The second one is the candidates always follow the main supervisor, always usually the main supervisor, and then the main supervisor have different ways of putting the content whatsoever lah, those different ways of arranging, and it's always good to me, I think, to counter check and to sit together to see which one is the team decision for revision. So I think that will help our candidates basically to streamline which one to follow. If we put as a team feedback, for example, I myself, another co-supervisor, okay, which one we really want, because there are so many feedback, you give this feedback, the other one give feedback, and my own feedback. It seems that your feedback is contrasting me, your feedback is supporting me. Which one we want to give to candidate? Sometimes among our supervisor team, we need to discuss as well about our feedback to the candidates. Sometimes our feedback, even from my own experience, sometimes we think that our feedback is the best one. But when we look at the co-supervisor, yes, they have their own point as well. So why not we combine together and we formulate a team feedback in that particular case lah. If let's say the feedback is not supporting each other, so that will be good to have team feedback so that the candidate have one feedback from the 3 or 4 or maybe 2 supervisors. That will help the candidate a lot, and particularly if the candidate is novice. Remember, if the candidate is very novice in the area and the first times the candidate is writing the thesis or writing a paper, we will expect a lot of confusion. And if we give more feedback from different angles and the feedback is not united, bukannya Manchester United, united feedback from everybody in the supervisor team, that will create more confusion to the novice student who are just learning to write thesis. So my advice, if the candidate is master candidate, it's always better to have only one main feedback that have been taken care, that are considering all the views from the supervisor team. That will be better. That will be better to cater novice candidate lah in writing thesis. And I found it from my experience when I did that. For example, three of us, three supervisors, sit together on the same screen and then compare our comments, and then we get consensus of which comment we want to, which comment that we really want to send it to candidates, and then candidate will be happier. Because why? Because at the supervisor team, we already have a consensus. These are the things that we want the candidate to revise, and then all the supervisors have the same idea and same expectation, and we decided that okay, this content is not suitable, so all supervisors already give their opinion, and we give one feedback to student, and then the student revise based on the consensus feedback that came from the three supervisors. This is my my strategies lah. Previously, I have the same problem as you have mentioned just now. Supervisor A give different comment, B the comment, and myself, admin supervisor, the comment. But based on that experience, what I did after that, I call them, and then let's have a consensus which feedback we want to give to the student, because we have to recognize the candidate is not PhD candidate. PhD candidate, maybe they have experience in writing thesis, but even PhD candidate also need guidance and need one consensus feedback, because it's a bit difficult for them to handle three different feedbacks from their supervisors. So, but and even more if the master student is their first experience in writing thesis, it's always good if the supervisor team can have one consensus feedback to the student, or maybe let the main supervisor handle the feedback session. So a co-supervisor give the feedback to the main supervisor, so that only main supervisor handling the feedback. The rest is giving to giving input to main supervisor. What do you think that the candidate need to improve? So that's only one-way communication with main supervisor and the candidates for the master student lah, basically. So that is my my sharing lah, what I did, and it works very well so far. I'm not really sure in your contact, but my contact so far, consensus feedback from the three supervisor giving to candidate are very helpful to the candidate. Yes, anything else? Or can I proceed with the next slide? Because we only have 5 to 10 minutes, but I'm willing to discuss further beyond the time if you wanted. Okay, okay, now why supervisory skills? So this is something I took from Bregman. One is choice of supervisor is probably the most crucial decision in a postgraduate journey, as a good supervisor can make or break the learning experience. See, at the end of the day, supervisor play some roles in the learning journey of any postgraduate student. So therefore, as a supervisor, we really need to to have a different set of skills to ensure that we can deal with students, diversity definitely, and then hopefully we are putting our best our best effort to help them. But despite all this effort that we have done as a supervisor, the student still can go in a different way, because not because of the supervisor, but because of the student factor. So that is another things lah. Once we have done our best, we have done what is supposed to be done. At the end of the day, is the candidate who who the factors most important to ensure the success of their learning journey. And the other one is, this is something quite interesting from Brandon as well, in terms of finding supervisor. You know, what they advise in that paper: find former students supervised by your target supervisor. This is advice lah, basically to the postgraduate student or looking the supervisor, target supervisor, and check out the strength and weakness of the supervisor. See, though we are putting our best, so at the end of the day, the candidates who being supervised by ourselves, we become our reflection as a supervisor. So then you can see that sometimes we'll get students from other students, because why? The other students who are potential students to us will have some so-called of research who are their supervisors. And one way of the getting information from the students, the former student being supervised, already supervised by us. So at the end of the day, whatever we have done, the students might somehow reflect our supervision quality. So that is something that this article trying to convey. That's why the candidates, any candidate usually, particularly in PhD, they are looking for supervisor, because they know the supervisor, right supervisor, the right match, the right the right areas of interest will produce the right outcomes at the end of the day. But it's not to blame the supervisor, but basically the supervisor is being investigated by potential student in the future. So that is something that we can see why supervisory skill is important, because even though the student fail, but because we have done our best to support the students, but despite of the support, due to certain circumstances, the student couldn't make it, but still, we as a supervisor, we have done our best as what we have to. The rest is basically still lay down to the candidate, because certain situation we cannot control. That's why even the fail student, but because our supervisor's skill is good, you may still say that the supervisor is good basically because I'm the one who withdraw from the program, not because of the supervisor. So that is kind of reflection that others will see us when we become supervisor, and that's will determine whether the next potential students will come to us or maybe will come to others who are better than us in terms of supervision. So my final note is TOCS, okay, TOCS, table of contents. My note one is time. I think as a supervisor, times really matter. So we need to give time to our candidates to ensure that they are given appropriate and sufficient attention for us to supervise. The second part is opportunity. Time is important. The second part is opportunity. We need to give opportunity as much as possible to our candidates to unleash the potential, because with every opportunity, there will be a potential to be unleashed from them. In either small is big, it doesn't matter. And the culture, definitely, supervisor, as a supervisor, we need to set the right culture in our supervision team as well as to the supervisors, so they know that these are the culture that we're trying to promote and to encourage. And there are certain culture that we really discourage, that not good for them to be a future scholar. And last but not least, try to tap on the individual strength to support growth and ownership. So basically, this is something that I really remind myself. If you are looking at the weakness of the students, please remember what are those strengths of the student that we can tap on to build them as much as possible. But if at the end of the day, the students have not realized the strengths, and they choose, not to success, that is their problem lah, basically, not our problem. But as far as the supervisor scale as concerns, we have done our best to tap on the strength, even though we know that there are so many weaknesses in their own self. So I think these are 4 final notes from me. Please provide time, provide opportunity, set the right culture, and tap on individual strength to support growth and ownership among our postgraduate students. I think with that, thank you so much. So those who are interested to get my PowerPoint, you can download. Okay, this is my PowerPoint. You can download from this, and you can share. You can do whatever you wish. Nothing wrong for me. And maybe if you have any question, I think I'm open for any discussion, question for maybe another 15 minutes if you want, because we start a bit late in the beginning, so maybe we can have another 10 to 15 minutes for discussion. Yes, anything that you like to ask? Or maybe I can share, I can copy. Let me copy the link and then put it on your chat. PowerPoint slides can be downloaded from this link. Okay, already shared my PowerPoint slide there. You can download. And yes, anything that you like to discuss? Maybe I stop sharing. Yes, anything. Any feedback? Yeah, anything? Or maybe you want to end this session as soon as possible, also can, no problem. But yeah, I think there's a good opportunity for us to share anything that you like to share. How do we do with poor English proficiency? Maybe or to deal. Okay, this is very, there is very basic skills. Perhaps from the start lah, basically. To me, I think if I'm this is particularly for PhD lah. For PhD, I'm not saying for the master. Sometimes master is a bit difficult. For the PhD, if I have say to choose which candidate, one of the criteria that I will look at is the English proficiency. How do I look at the English proficiency? Usually I ask them to come up with a conceptual research proposal based on the template. And based on the write-up, about maybe 2,000 to 3,000 words of a concept, a proposal, what's their ideas. So I can gauge already at least the minimum acceptable English proficiency, because basically they are like us, the second language user. So basically we do not expect them to be like native, but at least something that is workable for us to work with them throughout the journey, or at least 2 to 5 years down the road, isn't it? So for PhD candidate, I did that, and I'm doing that as well. But for the master, if we do not have so much choice, we could not be too choosy. We have to accept whatever we have. But if you think that is based on the qualification during the application, because during the application everybody have chance, isn't it, to review their at least certain things. For example, their English qualification, the degree, the medium they are using when they are when they did degree. So perhaps that will give some idea on their English proficiency. But I do agree, and I have that kind of experience as well. Even though we have scrutiny the qualification during the application, okay, during application, still we miss that kind of basic requirement, particularly the English proficiency. And we got a lot of problem as well in the master program. PhD so far so good, not so much on English proficiency. It's more on the academic writing skill, which is very different from the English writing skill. The academic writing skill will need a different approach, particularly in writing up our ideas for the academic purpose. Okay. And then the other part is basically if you have grant, if you have grant for for addressing those with weak English proficiency, and then send to we call it English editing. Okay, English editing, and do not use the native English editing because it's very expensive. Just use our pusat bahasa. Our pusat bahasa is quite good as well in terms of their English editing services, and not that expensive. Not that expensive, to my knowledge. Yeah, and acceptable level of English, not up to native English, but at least acceptable level for the writing for the thesis purpose. Yes, definitely. Not only student, even lecturer also having problem with academic scientific writing. But the process is gradual and required time, like basically to develop those scientific writing. So I think if we as a lecturer also developing our academic scientific writing, perhaps that will be a good exercise as well to to help our student. But definitely time is really it really matter, because sometimes we do not have time to guide them one by one, isn't it? Yeah, I do understand that. But just just we call it outsource the English editing to our pusat bahasa if the candidate is too poor lah, or maybe we don't have that much time as the candidate. So, thank you so much for for sharing your thoughts, your experience, your stories during this session. I hope whatever I shared with you something useful, and those are basically from my own limited experience as well as literatures or evidence about supervisory skills. And in fact, the 10 supervisory skills is not from me. It's basically from one of the authors that I quoted in the slides. You can have a look on the detail as well. But I just mold the 10 essential to my own flavors based on my own experience as far as I'm being a supervisor. If anything less, there is something that you can give feedback for me to improve. And anything that's good, I think that's from Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala, and hopefully everything good you can share. And as I mentioned, the slide is shareable, and you can give to anyone that you think might benefited from the slides. So another 1 minute, anything? Anything that you like to share from your own experience, because every supervisor have your own experience. So maybe whatever I share is different from you, and maybe you have a better experience that you can share with us. Okay, if no more, Wani, can we stop right now? It's already, mana Wani?
Yes, Doctor. Thank you for your sharing. Boleh.
Dah boleh stop dah?
Boleh. Please don't forget to fill in the feedback form for the CPD lah. Otherwise, tak ada dah daripada CDA, okay dah semua. Daripada doktor pun rasanya dah selesai. So, thank you, Doctor.
Nanti share.
Yep.
Tolong share feedback ke saya juga, Ana. Saya nak tengok apa yang boleh tambah baik.
Yes, boleh, Doktor. Alright, thank you, Doctor.
Okay, so thank you so much, everyone. See you again in the future workshop. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan selamat tengah hari. Happy lunch.